You are getting ready to take your first cruise. You want to make sure that you don't waste your time, that you're not wasting your money, and we're here to help. We are seasoned travelers, seasoned cruisers, and we have put together the ultimate guide. So let's just jump right into this.
One of the first things you're going to want to do is fly in a day early. You are not going to want to chance missing your cruise because your flight was delayed, there was a cancellation, it happens. Don't let it happen to you. Fly in a day early, book a hotel near the cruise port. You will save yourself a lot of heartache potentially.
And if you are finding yourself overwhelmed by all of the details that have to go into this and all of the choices that you have to make, just hire a travel agent. They will make it so much easier. They have tons of experience. They see things on a broad spectrum when you can only see a narrow portion of the whole cruise industry. And in addition to that, oftentimes they can get you credit on board a ship. So if you're overwhelmed, find a travel agent and book through them.
Next tip, check in online as early as possible. You can check with your cruise line to find out what the requirements for that actually are, but you are going to want to do that as quickly as you can. It can get you a quicker queue in line and ultimately get you on board the ship faster than you would otherwise.
So here's a really good tip. The cruise line is going to email you luggage tags, and then they're going to give you instructions on how to attach those tags to your luggage. Oftentimes they will direct you to tape the tags onto your luggage, and we would recommend that you not do that. From the time you hand over your bags to the porter, to the time that they get to your room later that evening, there are going to be so many hands that touch that bag and handle it in different ways. So don't risk having that tag being ripped off of your bag and then you not getting your bag until 1, 2, or maybe even more days into the cruise. Instead, grab some cruise luggage tags off of Amazon. They're just a few dollars. I'll put a link in the description, and that will save you from running the risk of having a terrible start to your vacation.
Another thing we found that's really handy when traveling on cruises is magnetic hooks. You can pick them up off Amazon. We'll link to it in the description as well. But you'll find that in your cabin, all of your walls are magnetic. So you can just stick these magnets anywhere. In the bathroom, up again on your bedroom wall. If you have a balcony, they'll stick outside. They're great for drying clothes, hanging up your lanyard. You will find a million uses for them, and they come in super handy. Another thing we like to do, it's fun and it's actually quite helpful too, are magnets. We like to get some decorative fun magnets, and we can just hang them to our cabin door, and it helps us to identify them when you're going down the endless hallways. It makes your cabin really easy to spot.
So one thing you need to understand is when you hand your bags over to the porter as you're entering the cruise, you're not going to be seeing that bag until later in the day. So one way that you can make sure that you have all of the critical and essential items that you need is to carry on a bag onto the ship with you. This would maybe have your medication in it, maybe have a cell phone charger. Don't forget to put your swimsuits in there because you're more than likely going to want to go to the pool prior to getting your bag. So make sure you just have a small bag that you're carrying that has all of your mission critical items in it.
No matter what cruise line you book with, you're going to definitely want to download the cruise line specific app. You will be able to book everything from excursions to potentially altering your dining or booking dining reservations, potentially shows depending upon the line. You can add packages. You are going to need that app. So definitely go on ahead of time and book that or download that as early as possible.
So one of my favorite things to do as soon as we get on the cruise ship is run to the buffet. However, if you're not a big fan of crowds, you may want to avoid the buffet when you get on the ship. And if that's the case, go to one of the smaller free dining options that they have because you most likely won't find nearly as many people in there. Another thing you could do is just go to the pool, grab a lounger, and enjoy a crowd-free day at the pool.
I do love that buffet though.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really good. I know that I'm going to find that not everybody agrees with me on this, but we typically will always book an interior cabin. We find that it saves us a lot of money. We don't really spend a lot of time in the cabin, especially the first cruise you go on. You're going to want to be out and doing stuff. Interior cabins are also great if you want a mid-afternoon nap and you get that dark room. But we don't mind an interior cabin. And we find that the little time that we do spend in our room, that we would rather save that money and use it elsewhere.
Yeah, and in fact, the last 2 cruises that we've taken 2 cruises on MSC in the past 12 months. We got interior cabins, and MSC upgraded both of those cabins to balcony cabins for free. You always have that opportunity that your interior cabin be upgraded with no charge to a balcony cabin.
And if they don't, then the ship line will always send you out emails as your cruise date approaches closer and closer, and they will allow you to upgrade. Sometimes you can even do like a raffle, or you can bid on a room upgrade. So you have a chance of getting it for a cheaper price than you are initially quoted as well.
If you are traveling in the Caribbean, you will most likely run across several different currencies that are in different countries. And you may wonder, what currencies should I carry? Well, don't sweat it, because the dollar is accepted everywhere. And in addition to that, credit cards are accepted everywhere. One warning is that you not bring a debit card to your vacation with you. Well, don't take it to port with you. With a debit card, if the number's stolen or the card is stolen, and you have fraudulent charges, it's way more difficult to combat those charges with a bank than it is with a credit card company. A credit card company is going to see it, they're going to do a little bit of research on it, and then they will strike that from your account. A debit card, you may have a lot more difficulty doing that. So carry dollars, and I would suggest that you carry lots of small bills when you go to port, and carry a credit card, and you're good to go.
Another thing you're going to want to do if you're a big pop drinker is check with your cruise line to see if you can take on board sodas with you. A lot of cruise lines will allow you a maximum per person. Sometimes it's 12 cans. That sounds like a lot carrying on board, but if you really like your sodas, you're going to want to check it out, especially because they can run you $3 to $4 or more per pop on board. Another thing you might find when you're booking is that your cruise line might be offering free drink packages that will sometimes include alcoholic beverages as well as soda. We typically waive that because we find that they add gratuities on top of that, which can be pretty significant. So even after adding the free package, it can end up being $300-400 more per cabin because they go ahead and add the gratuities.
Yeah, we don't do that.
We don't do that. And they will give you free lemonade, tea, coffee.
Water.
Yeah, water.
Some of you may have heard that you don't need a passport when you take a Caribbean cruise. And if you are returning to the same port that you left from, that is in fact true. You don't necessarily need a passport. You can arrive with your state-issued birth certificate and a photo ID, like a driver's license. However, you might run into problems if you somehow or have a medical emergency, or something happens and you need to return home. You're going to really struggle getting home with that birth certificate and driver's license. Whereas a passport, it won't be a breeze getting home, but it would be significantly easier otherwise. In addition to that, you'll find that it's a lot easier with a passport. Anytime that you are going through any kind of security check, a driver's license and a birth certificate is going to hold you up, and oftentimes they'll even put you in another queue, which will take much longer. So a passport really expedites the whole thing, and it's about $120, $130 right now, and it lasts for 10 years. So it would be our recommendation, if you can afford it, to go ahead and get that passport to make sure that you have a much better, faster trip, and that you don't run the risk of having difficulties getting home.
Kids are only good for 5 years.
Yeah, kids are good for 5 years. I think they are the same price.
Under 16 is good for 5 years.
Under 16.
Yeah.
Good for 5 years. One of my favorite things to do, and one that's not advertised anywhere, is to order multiple entrees in the main dining room for dinner, breakfast, or lunch. They're not going to tell you that they do this, but many cruise lines still do it for free. MSC charges $5 now for doing it, and it gives you an opportunity to try things that you normally wouldn't try, or if you just can't make up your mind, you can have both the steak and the fish. And you can also get multiple appetizers, multiple desserts, multiple sides, whatever it is. And I don't think there's a limit to it, but you do on MSC, like we said, it's $5 additional for that. And you're not putting anyone out. So don't feel bad, don't be embarrassed by doing it. They are totally used to it from seasoned cruisers, and they will do it with a smile.
MSC only charges $5 extra for the entrees, never for the sides or desserts. So you can order multiples of those with no additional charge. If you're driving to the port, there's nothing more convenient than parking at the port. Typically, you will pay a little bit of a premium for this service because you're going to be so close and it's convenient. Sometimes you can find something that's a little bit further away and shuttle in and save some money, but you definitely want to explore your options. A lot of times, by the time you get off the ship with disembarkation, you're just going to want to go. So I recommend parking as close to the port as possible. Another thing you might want to explore is sometimes you can get free parking in a hotel nearby and they will shuttle you. I've seen where hotels will let you park there for the entire duration of your cruise as long as you pre-arrange it with them and you book with them the night before you leave.
If you plan to drink on board and you wondered if the cruise line would allow you to bring some alcohol, they actually will allow you to bring some alcohol on embarkation day, but it's a minimal amount, maybe a bottle or two of wine. I think it varies by line. So you'll definitely want to review the cruise line's policy, make sure you completely understand what it is, and make sure you are not even an ounce in excess of what they have allowed you to bring. Otherwise, you're going to be off to a bad start. They're going to confiscate it, and then they will probably return it to you when you disembark at the end of the trip.
Also, you'll find on the ship they do sell alcohol where you can purchase the bottles. However, they do hold that for you until I think the night before disembarkation. So you can purchase that there typically on the ship at a discount, but you will not be able to drink it on board. Okay. Another thing to know is that tipping is typically added into your overall cruise cost at the end of your cruise. You can find it on your billing statement. Typically the app is a great place to check to see what your running total is, and that will include all of your gratuities anytime you go get a drink. They do spread these gratuities out amongst people that are typically serving you, whether that be the dining room staff or your cabin stewards. A lot of times we will have people that serve us that go above and beyond, and we will give them something extra in addition to that. And typically we just do that with cash and an envelope at the end of the trip. So anybody that does go above and beyond, we do like to recognize that. These guys and girls worked really hard, and we do like to show our appreciation for that.
Time after time, people return home from a cruise a month later and they see their cellular bill has gone through the roof because of international roaming. You don't want to be put in that position, so you need to understand your cellular provider's policies prior to going on the trip. I have a Verizon business account that allows me to pay $10 a day for international roaming no matter how much I use it. Others may have other options, but you want to understand completely and fully what your options are. And if your options are not good or affordable, or you choose not to use them, you want to make sure you put your phone on airplane mode for the entirety of the trip. That way your phone isn't in the background passing data, and then you would end up with some surprise charges.
One thing you want to make sure you don't miss is eating breakfast and lunch in the main dining room. A lot of times people will opt for a quicker breakfast or lunch, and certainly do the buffet on days that you're on port, that you have excursion plans or other things that you need to get to. But if you've got a little more time, I do highly recommend going to the main dining room for a leisurely breakfast or lunch. It is going to take you longer. The quality of food is typically going to be better, and it's just a really pleasant experience.
You are undoubtedly going to want to bring some additional electronics or care products like curling irons or hair dryers or things that you need to plug in. And you will need to charge multiple electronic devices while you're in your room. Your rooms have a limited number of outlets, so you'll want to bring an adapter, a multi-port adapter. They're really cheap. We will link to one in the description so you know what we're talking about, but just make sure that it does not have surge protection. Surge protectors are forbidden to be on cruise lines, so you want to make sure you get one that is not a surge protector and that it just gives you multiple ports for your electronics and other items.
Another thing to note is that when you leave your cabin, you are required to take your room key with you, which is the same key that turns your lights on and off in your room. When you remove this key from your room when you leave, it will shut down all electronic outlets in your room. So that means if you are leaving a device behind to charge, it will not charge when you are gone. So just plan ahead for that as well.
The most sought after amenity on a cruise line is the elevator, particularly around embarkation, disembarkation, dinner time, and lunchtime, and you will find it nearly impossible to get on an elevator. So if you are physically capable of using the stairs, go ahead and plan on using them. You know, if you just need to travel 2 or 3 stories up or down, just use the stairs. You'll save yourself a ton of time. And you'll find that you've burned some extra calories that you've picked up at the buffet while you were on the ship.
Anytime you go to a bar or a restaurant or anywhere and order a drink or ice cream or whatever it is extra that you might be ordering and paying for, gratuities are always included. So just make sure, unless you really want to acknowledge the person that's serving you by tipping them extra, do not double tip them, because I think it's either a 15 or 18% gratuity is standard across anything you order. So just be mindful of that.
So unlike airlines, cruise lines allow you to bring a lot more baggage or luggage onto the ship. However, your rooms are really small, so you've got to be very considerate about the number of bags that you bring on the ship. You don't have a lot of room. You don't have a lot of dresser room. You don't have a lot of closet room. You just don't have a lot of room even to store the actual suitcase when it's empty. So if you bring too many, you'll find that you are going to fill your room up quickly and you won't have a lot of room to move around.
On another note, you're going to want to make sure you bring enough clothes. You're going to want to check ahead of time with your cruise line about certain theme nights, formal nights. A lot of that you can find out if you join a Facebook group. You could probably contact the cruise line directly or a travel agent. Sometimes those are really fun things to plan for and shop for ahead of time, and you're going to want to be prepared. Another thing we really love about cruises is the fact that we get to travel as a family. We have several kids and we like to spend a lot of time with them. And the thing about cruises that's great is that we also get some time away from them too, because the kids' activities are always amazing. Our kids really don't ever want to leave them. So it's kind of the best of both worlds, family time and alone time. So definitely use those kids club to their advantage, to your advantage, and you will not regret it. They will not regret it. Our kids never want to leave. They always make friends and they talk about it for months and months afterwards.
So you'll want to make sure that you do take some warmer clothes with you. If you're on a Caribbean cruise or Alaskan cruise or really any cruise, you're going to be out in the middle of the ocean in the middle of the night and you're going to want to walk around the ship. The ocean air is breezy, the ship is moving, so it's a little bit cooler at nighttime. So bring a light jacket. If you're cold-blooded, bring some light pants. It'll just make you a lot more comfortable as you're wandering around on the deck early in the morning or late in the evening.
And a lot of times those cruises will crank up the AC, so a jacket is always handy.
Yeah, those theaters are cold.
Really cold, yes. If you want to look like a seasoned cruiser, this is something you're definitely going to want to have. It's a lanyard. You'll put it around your neck, you'll carry your room key in it. You're going to look goofy just like everybody else, but we wear them, our kids wear them. We've never lost a room key, and it's definitely not something that you want to do. That's the way that you make purchases and stuff like that a lot of times too. So get the lanyards. We'll link to them in the description. They are handy and you will just blend in with everyone else.
If you have some extra money budgeted for your trip, or even the money that you've saved from the tips that we've already told you and the ones that we're going to tell you here in a couple of minutes, spend it on excursions. Excursions can completely change the landscape of your trip. They will give you lifelong memories, and oftentimes they are adventures that you will never have an opportunity to go on otherwise. And these include things like snorkeling, of course, zip lining through a rainforest, cultural experiences like visiting Mayan ruins, riding four-wheelers on the beach, and even, yes, swimming with pigs in the ocean. So spend your extra money on excursions and make this a trip of a lifetime.
A lot of times you'll find too that cruise lines will offer specials for excursions, like they'll give one person in the cabin $50 credit for the first person that books or something like that. So keep an eye out for those. Every little bit helps. Sooner or later on your cruise, you are more than likely going to find yourself having to make a trip to guest services. These lines can be very lengthy because you and everybody else typically is going to have to visit at least once. The lines do get long. We have found in our experience that the shortest wait times are typically right before dinner. Everybody's anxious to get to dinner, so they don't want to go wait in guest services. So check that out then. Another time that's good is right before breakfast. Early in the morning is always great too. But in that free time, you will find that those lines can get really, really long, and they do often move really slow.
If you have a need to stay connected while you're on the ship and your cellular provider doesn't offer a good international roaming package, of course, the cruise lines do offer Wi-Fi, somewhere between $15 and $25 per day. One thing you need to understand about these Wi-Fi packages is that it's very low bandwidth, but it's good for checking email, sending SMS messages and stuff like that, maybe even browsing web pages. However, it's not at all going to be good for streaming. You will not be able to stream. And so it's really just very basic internet usage. But if you have a business need, or that's how you find that you relax in the evenings by going through email and stuff, or perhaps Facebook, then maybe the Wi-Fi package is good for you. If you do want to save some money on the Wi-Fi package, you will want to make sure that you book it before you go on your trip. Everything is going to be a little bit cheaper, and we're going to talk about that here in a moment.
I will say that I'm the one that typically books the cruises, so you probably don't know this, but you can pay a little bit more for better Wi-Fi, which will include streaming services. Typically that can be up to like 4 devices, so you can stream. It's just going to cost you a little bit more.
Speaking of streaming, one way that you can kind of get around that, if you like to relax in the evening, or if you want to get your kids to wind down in the evening by watching movies, there's not really going to be any movies on the TV service on the cruise ship. They'll play the same movie on repeat pretty much all week long.
See the groundhog? Yeah. Think it'll be in early spring.
But just get some iPads or maybe even your iPhone and download movies using Netflix. Amazon Prime allows you to do it. I believe Disney also allows you to download some movies. So you can have enough entertainment downloaded on your devices that might last you the entire week.
One thing that you're going to want to do is pre-order any packages that you think that you might need, whether it's dining or photo or Wi-Fi, anything that you think that you might need ahead of time. It will be more expensive on board than it is going to be if you pre-order it. Typically, it's going to be about 20% more. So if you know that you're going to want a drink package, buy it ahead of time. If you know that you're going to want to do an excursion, definitely book it ahead of time. You will save money in the long run, and then you don't have to run the risk of an excursion filling up and selling out also.
And so lastly, and this is the one that you don't want to screw up, don't miss the all aboard time on the days that you are at port. When you wake up in the morning, there's going to be a calendar of events that's either attached to your door or slid underneath your door on a daily basis. On port days, that calendar or that sheet that they give you is going to give you the all aboard time for that day. So maybe it's something like 4:30 or 5:30 in the afternoon. So make sure that you understand what time zone you're in. But you do not want to be the most recent viral video of a pier runner trying to catch the ship as it's pulling away. This would be a very unpleasant experience, one that we've never had to deal with. However, I think we've seen it. We've seen it happen, yeah. And we might have even had a close call once, many years ago. But this is not something you want to mess around with. The only time that there is an exception is when you are on an excursion that is planned through the cruise line. And if it's running late, they'll make a phone call back to the line saying, hey, we're running late. They will hold the ship for that. If you go on an excursion that you bought separately outside of the cruise line, they will not wait for you. So make sure that you are back at the ship at the all aboard time so you can leave with everyone else. If you are a budget conscious traveler, you will definitely want to make sure that you check out this next video as we talk about what we think is the cruise line that offers by far the most value at sea. Please consider liking and subscribing to our channel. It helps us a ton. Thanks for watching.